So what are the chances of reversing this alarming trend in knife crime? It is our talking point this morning. Here with me to discuss this, former Met detective Peter Kirkham and Sephton Henry, a former gang member who now does a lot of work trying to help gang members get out of this circle of violence. Good morning to you both. Morning. Peter, I'll come to you first. The government have unveiled these measures today. What do you make of them? Because it feels like we've heard a lot of them before, ASBO-style restrictions, you know, greater pressure on retailer to stop selling knives. Yeah,
anything that goes in the right direction is going to be helpful, but all of these things are marginal. And you need people, police officers, trading standards officers, you need people to actually enforce them. Without anybody to enforce them, what's the point of them? They're not going to magically stop knife crime happening.
So you think they need to be bigger and bolder? So, for example, they're putting in £500,000 to help the trading standards clamp down on retailers who sell knives to people who are underage. They're also talking about these ASBO-style orders, but, you know, where are the police numbers to inflict, to sort of carry this out? So do you think they need to be bigger and bolder on these measures?
It's not the measures, it's the resources to do something with them. The knife crime orders in themselves may be useful in some cases of persistent offenders, but not all the people involved are persistent offenders. Not all the people have a huge history that you could get involved with a preventative order. We need police officers to enforce, we need trading standards officers to enforce. Both of those have been cut. The 500,000 for trading standards, for instance, 0.5% of the 108 million that's been cut from trading standards since 2010. It's a drop in the ocean.
Sephton, what jumped out as different to me from these government proposals is the ban on social media. If somebody is found carrying a knife, they will be banned from social media platforms. Will that be effective? Because we keep hearing from gang members that we speak to here on Sky News that often the aggravation starts online and then spills over onto the streets.
I think that it would affect, definitely it would make some sort of impact, but it won't be a big impact because social media is not the key to gang violence, if that makes sense. When they're actually doing the stuff that they're doing, they go on the streets and that's where it's happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think with that on top of other things, then you might see a change, like empowering the right people to do the job. So example, if they empowered, I've got a company called Unity, Together We Are Stronger. If they empowered us to go onto the streets and put some of that money into those young people, instead of putting it into something else, actually put it into the young people, then we could make their lives different.
Yeah, we keep coming back to that point, don't we, Peter? Whenever we discuss knife crime, and Jason Farrell, our home editor, the gang members he was speaking to in North London, he asked them, if you could say one thing to the Prime Minister, what would it be? And they said, invest in us. Give us something to do. We have got nothing to do. Nobody's investing in us.
Well, the socio-economic reasons behind why young people get involved in crime generally, street crime and street drug dealing particularly, and then the violence that comes out of that, which is what we're talking about here. There's other types of knife violence, but we're talking really about an explosion in street crime-related knife crime. Yeah, that's absolutely front and central. But again, we've heard that 200 million's going into youth provision. Well, that's 27% of the 737 million that's been cut since 2010. One of the things in these orders that they talk about is young people being sent on thinking skills courses. I'm afraid the people that need to go on thinking skills courses are the government, not the young people.
Yeah, well, Sephton, it's interesting, you know, Peter there talked about community schemes and youth provision.
Yes.
Is that where a lot of this money could go? Because that's the kind of work you do. And it gives these young people somewhere to go, a safe environment to learn new skills, meet with their mates, talk to their peers and older people about their career prospects or life path.
Yeah, so it's like having mentors with these young people, but actually giving them something that's going to make them prosper in life. They need to see themselves making it in society or they're not going to come into society. As you've seen on that video, those kids there was saying, we're not going to listen to you lot, we're doing this life, unless you give us something, then we're not coming into that side of the world.
What do you think, Sephton? young people, if they're watching this morning, will think about those government measures? Will it make them act any differently when it comes to carrying a knife?
Truthfully, it's just a bit of a joke. Like, it's just funny.
they'll just shrug it off and go about their business.
Continue.
Peter, that's disappointing to hear, isn't it? Because Sajid Javid is coming out very strongly on this and very passionately and saying this is what we need to... It's going to fall on deaf ears this morning.
It is. It's marginal. It's tinkering around with the edges. They're not doing the fundamental things they need to do, which is reinvest and replace the cuts that they've made across policing, youth services and various other things. He says that he's doing everything in his power. He's not doing everything in his power. He's doing everything that he can do without upsetting Theresa May and making her look like she went too far with various cuts. That's what he's doing.
Police numbers on the streets. It's interesting Peter says that. Sephton, is that a deterrent if young people are out and about carrying knives to see a police presence on the streets?
Yes.
Does that make a difference?
Yes, definitely. On the beat police officers. I remember there was a man that I still remember to this day, PC Evans, and he used to come round on his bike, and whenever he came around, everyone, they stopped doing all the bad stuff that they was doing because he was there. And he wasn't enforcing, though. That's another thing.
Had he built a relationship?
He built a relationship with us. And that's how it was. So there needs to be more relationship with them, because obviously we're seeing them as criminals, bad, evil, go. And then we're pushing them away, but we need to be bringing them in. So how do we bring them in? By helping them, by giving them stuff.
Peter, do we hear those stories anymore of police in the community building relationships with young people?
They're not there. Community policing, safer neighbours policing has been absolutely devastated because of the cuts. It's the one thing that they can cut without people sort of complaining. If you cut response, people complain no one came when I dialed 999. If you cut investigation, people complain their crime isn't investigated. Cut neighbourhood policing, they just sort of generally moan they don't see cops on the beat, but it's nowhere near as obvious. And so that and proactive policing, getting in, trying to get people caught by proactive means is what's gone.
Yeah, it does feel like we're going round and round in circles while knife crime is going up. Every expert we speak to here on Sky News talks about police numbers and investment in youth as well, both of which are being cut by the government. Really important to reinforce the message this morning and talk about it. Peter Kirkham.
Lots of talk, not enough action.
Yeah, and Sephton Henry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You summed it up very well there, Peter. Thank you very much. Right, still to come on